You know. Wi-Fi in Montana's got to get some help. But we are live. We're going to share it on a couple of social media platforms, and then we will take our show on the road.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I would like to plant the seed that you can very easily swat aside, but at some future time, so many people are debating the business going on in Israel about the Haredim not serving, and the
army?
in the army, yeah. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it, regardless of where it comes out. I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer. I love the way you think, and I would love to hear how you process it. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing or promoting a particular position.
I will take that into it. As they say in the court, I'll take it under advisement, George.
Right.
And,
yeah, but it's a little dangerous, so I can see you staying away from it.
No. Believe it or not, it doesn't scare me as the danger. It's a very nuanced, detailed discussion,
Yes.
And maybe I don't think that discussion is going to go anywhere. So Mirza Hashem, at some point we can get to it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live now. We are going into our class on Parsha Shlach. It's the fourth portion in the book of Numbers, in the book of Bamidbar. I'm just letting a few more people into the Zoom. I'm giving a class from home tonight because I'm also acting as a father, as Chavi, Baruch Hashem, for a simcha. Chavi traveled to Texas this morning for the bris of her nephew, whose name is Yaakov Shmuel, seventh boy to Chaim Mushka and Ari Weingarten. Mazel tov to them. And with that, we're going to get into our gedicht. We're going to get into the kishkis of the parsha. So I'll give you a quick recap of where the first big chunk of our parsha is what it's dealing with, and then get into the nuance, because actually the name that I gave to tonight's class, believe it or not, before you asked your question, George, was that nuance matters. And if you look closely, sometimes it's the most minute detail in a discussion that can make all the difference in what's really going on in the discussion. And we sometimes get so caught up in the macrocosm, in the bigger picture, we don't pay attention to the details. Just like there's a issue with people who are focused only on the details and they don't have any view of the bigger picture. There's also an issue with people who are the opposite. They're only the bigger picture, and along the way, they're not focused on the nuance and the detail, because those details matter. Right? At a recent JLI class, we discussed abortion. You talk about abortion in America, oh my gosh, you're taking a political stand, except I gave an hour and a half class on abortion. And I didn't take a political stand, because in Torah, even a topic like abortion is nuanced. Everything is nuanced. We don't always have the opportunity to focus on the nuance, but tonight I'd like to do that in the connection to the story of the spies. So let's recap the story of the spies. The spies were not God's plan. They were Moses' plan. Moses was approached about sending spies to scout out the land of Israel, or at the time, the land of Canaan. God says, Shlach lecha, you can send them. And then Rashi says, L'daitcha, you want to send them? It's your business. They're your spies. They're your scouts. They're not mine. I said already we're going to conquer the land of Israel. If you feel like it's a good memo to tell the Jews that we'll send the spies, the scouts, and they will assess the not whether we should go or not, but how we should conquer the land, the details are like a reconnaissance mission, then it's your business. You deal with it. Moshe sends 12 of the primary leaders of the Jewish people. 2 of them come back sticking to their mission, meaning not to tell the Jews whether they can go to Israel or not, because that wasn't up for debate. That wasn't their mission. That was already God told them they're going to Israel. They just came back and gave information about what you saw in the land. And 10 of them came back and with real negativity and with real malintent, really tried to dissuade the Jewish people from going to the land of Israel. So in case you're wondering, by the way, as a commercial message, in case you're wondering if all Jews were always pro-Israel. This week's parsha tells us that there were 10 spies who said, no, Israel's not a good place for us. That's end of my commercial message. You want to discuss that, we'll save it for a different time. But here I want to take you to the nuance, because the nuance is so important. When they come back from the land of Israel and they're giving a report, I'm using the live chumash that we use every week on page 888. And it says, at the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They came to Moses and Aaron and the entire congregation of the children of Israel in Kadesh in the desert of Paran. They brought them back a report to Moshe and Aaron, as well as to the entire congregation. They showed them the land's fruit. The first thing they did was show the fruit that these hey, Mitchell. We got a guest, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. You thought you could sneak in without him barking. You know what the moral of that story is? Come on time to class. The dog will bark before class starts. Give it a second. Okay, Ezzy, Ganug. Mitchell, just come in, because otherwise he's going to... No, I know. That's it. Okay. Take him to your room, please. Okay, he's with Mitchell. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, not every Chabad rabbi can offer you that experience. Now that you got it, we're going to continue. So the first thing, they come back to the Jewish people and they show them these gigantic fruit that they got from the land. They reported to Moshe and said, we came to the land to which you sent us. It's flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Amazing news. The food and the land of, it has incredible dairy products, and it has date honey, incredible date honey. And by the way, it's not bee honey, it's date honey. In case you think Israel has better bees than anywhere else in the world, it's not. They weren't talking about bees. And by the way, it has incredible, look at these gigantic fruit. However, then they said, the people who live in the land are extraordinarily powerful. The cities are huge and well fortified. Even so, the children of giants there. Amalek lives in the south, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites. Right? So far, what do? They came back and told us, one, how the food is, how the sustenance and the size of the fruit, and who's living there. And then Caleb silences them. Kalev ben Yefuneh, one of the two that survived. And it's important to remember, how come these two survived? Yehoshua was Moses' prime student, Joshua, and Moses changed his name from Hosea to Yehoshua with the blessing that God, Yudke, the name Yehoshua, the Yud and the Hey of the name is God's name, and Shea means to help. So he said to them, I'm changing your name so that God should help you, and you should survive the plots that happened down the road with the spies. So he was protected with this incredible blessing, so he stuck to his mission. Caleb went to pray at the resting place of Machpelah, where our matriarchs and patriarchs are buried. So these two come back, and here, after the 10 spies give us the report, number one, about the size of the fruit and the land of milk and honey, and then B, who lives there and how powerful they are, and the giants and the fortified cities. It says Caleb silenced the people, and then he said to listen to what he had to say about Moses, and then he said, we will definitely go up, we'll take possession of the land, for we are certainly capable of conquering it. Why did Caleb interrupt them? A couple of the commentaries. At this point in the story, the spies didn't say anything negatively, or at least seemingly they didn't say anything negative. They reported back. Moses had asked them to go to the land, find out what's going on there, who lives there, are they strong, are they weak, are they powerful, are they, are the cities walled or not walled, and is there good fruit, not good? They came back and said that information. At this point, there doesn't seem to be anything negative in what they're saying. And yet Caleb interrupts them. He silences them. He starts defending Moshe. And he says, well, we could certainly go up to the land and conquer it. But the men who went up with him, in other words, the other 10 spies, said, we're unable to go up against the people, but they are stronger than us. Okay. Now they already said something that's worth fighting about. They said, we're not capable of going to the land of Israel. But they only said that after Caleb interrupted them. So the question is about Caleb. Caleb was obviously clearly one of the two righteous surviving spies, Caleb and Joshua. But why did Caleb interrupt them when at this point in the story they hadn't done anything negative yet? All they did was report back. This is a question that the Ramban mentions, Nachmanides mentions. You know, if Caleb would have attacked them after they said we can't go to Israel, which was their biggest sin, that would make sense, but that's not where he interrupted them. You want to know what kind of fruit there is? I'll tell you what kind of fruit there is. You want to know what kind of people there are? I'll tell you what kind of people there are. Why silence people before they've actually committed their crime, or at least publicly announced their opposition to conquering the land? And here's where I said earlier that nuance is very, very important. And honestly, I'm 42 years old. Somebody asked me Friday night if it's okay if he asks me how old I am. I said, I mean, I'm not part of that whole shenanigans or people who are scared. You know, they're uncomfortable. I'm very happy to say that I'm 42 years old. So in 42 years, I've been learning Parsha Shlach, or at least let's say I'm 42. So for 36 years, I'm learning Parsha Shlach. And I never paid attention to this nuance that I'm about to share with you. So for me, it's new as well. So I'm actually excited to share it because it's exciting for me too. Caleb saw something and heard something in their words that we may not pay attention to unless we had this incredible talk from the Rebbe. So the Rebbe of blessed memory in 1950, the first year after he assumed the leadership of Chabad, discussed this question. It's not his question. There's other commentators that asked the question, but the Rebbe had a very unique answer. And he said as follows. When Moses sent the spies to Israel in the beginning of our Torah portion, I want to read to you what Moses told them, verbatim. Moses sent them to explore the land of Canaan. He said to them, go up this way along the south border until you reach the sea, right? South border. You know where that is, right? And then go up the west coast until you reach Hamat, which is by the Chor Mountains. And then here, listen closely to these words. See what kind of land it is. Are the people who inhabit it strong or weak? Are there a few of them or many? How is the land which they inhabit? Does it have good springs and wells or bad ones? How are the cities in which they live? Are they unenclosed cities or fortresses? What is the soil like? Is it a fertile or barren? Are there any righteous people there? Are there who are like trees that protect the people or not? Be courageous and take some of the land's fruit. In other words, when Moses sent them, he was very clear. The first thing you need to find out, because that's most important, is what kind of people live there and what are the cities like. In other words, our goal is to conquer the land. So the most important piece of information that we need is who's living there, what are they like, what are their numbers, are the cities fortified or not, so we know exactly how to conquer it. While you're there, number two, I'd like you to also find out, report back. Are there good fruits there? How's the financial situation there? What type of produce and growth and fruits and vegetables do you see in the land? That's the order in which Moses asked them to scout out the land. Number one, the most strategic way to conquer it based on the population size, the strength of the population, the circumstances of the cities, whether they're fortresses or not, and only afterwards find out about the produce and the food in the land. When the spies came back and they started speaking to the Jewish people, the first thing they did was talk about that the land is a land flowing with milk and honey, and they also have massive fruit. Oh, and then the people are this, and they're giants, and they're strong, and there's fortresses. Caleb, listened to the order in which the spies answered or shared their mission. And he realized that there's a very, very deep flaw in everything that's about to transpire, which is why he silenced them even before they said we can't conquer the land. The first thing they were focused on is their reward. What are we getting out of it? If we go to Israel, what are we getting out of it? And what was the first thing they spoke about? Oh my gosh, talk about reward. Israel has incredible flowing milk and honey and fruit. Their focus, the 10 spies, was on what we get out of it. And after that, they said, by the way, there's also, for conquering it, I just want you to know, they're massive and they're big and they're giants and it's fortified. In other words, they made it clear that from their perspective, they're looking for reward. And the question is whether the reward that they're going to get is worth the challenge that they're going to encounter. So they tell you what the reward is, what the blessings of the land are, which was not what Moses asked first. And then they say, oh my gosh, but to get to that reward, to get to that special blessing, we have X, Y, and Z of challenges to deal with. And is it a worthwhile endeavor or not? And their conclusion is going to be that it's not a worthwhile endeavor, even though the blessings are immense. But because their foundation was, what are we going to get out of it? The conversation at its core was already flawed. So even though they hadn't said yet that they don't think we can conquer the land, Caleb interrupted them because he already saw that they're off the beaten path when it comes to fulfilling their mission. When Moshe spoke to them, he did not ask them first and foremost to find out about the fruit of the land, because Moses understood, Moshe understood, and we are supposed to understand as well that when we come to servicing God and doing God's mission, it's not about the reward you get right away. It's not about that. It's not why you do what God wants you to do. It's about getting the mission accomplished. Someone called me this morning at 7 o'clock. Someone called me, a rabbi in Florida, about a member of his congregation who's struggling with infertility, and he's very mad at God because he made a deal with God about infertility, about having a baby. He'll do X, Y. I think it was Shabbos. I'll keep Shabbos if God blesses me with a baby. And he kept his part and God didn't keep his. And I said to the rabbi, I said, and what do you want me to tell him? You want me to tell him all the times I made deals with God and it didn't come true? In other words, you can't build your foundation and your relationship with Hashem based on the outcome and the agendas that you have, that you want from him. God, as much as you'd like him to be, is not your ATM machine. And when the spies went to Israel and Moshe said to them, first thing, find out about conquering the land. And they come back and the first thing they say is about what we can get out of it. Caleb understood at that moment that they were spiritually poisoned. And it was inevitable that the next thing that's going to come out of their mouth is that we can't go into the land of Israel, which indeed is exactly what happened. So he silenced them, hoping that he can get them off their misguided direction so that they shouldn't continue with this negative, because he knew it was coming. Unfortunately for him and for the whole Jewish people, he didn't succeed. They kept going. But sometimes it's in the nuance. I asked you to do two things, and you did both things, but you didn't do it, and you didn't share it in the order I asked you. By the way, in Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, actually I have it right here, there's Shiva Dvarim B'Chacham and Shiva Dvarim B'Goylum. I'm not going to try to find it now. There's 7 things that you see in a person that you know he's a wise person, and 7 things that you see in a person you know he's a total idiot. One of the things you know about an idiot is that when you ask him questions, he doesn't answer them in the order you asked. If someone asks you questions, answer them in the order. The minute Caleb saw that it was coming out of order, he knew that at the core there was something rotten here, and it ain't going well. Because you were not asked to be a reporter on fruits and vegetables and honey and milk. That was secondary. And the fact that you made it primary tells us everything we need to know about your focus. When Judaism or life becomes about what do I get out of it, instead of what do I give for it, and what do I invest in it, then you're off the path. There are other religions, by the way, in the world that can remain anonymous. There's other religions that it's all about what you get from it. If you're looking to get an easy path to heaven, or at least the promise of heaven, or if you're looking to get an easy path to eternal bliss, don't come to Judaism. To get eternal bliss in heaven in Judaism, you got to work for it. And sometimes you work for it and you don't even see the results you were promised. That's not what it's about. It's not that you put in the number in the ATM machine and God gives you exactly what you ordered. That's not how it works. He has his own program, God. We have to trust that he knows exactly what he's doing, even when it hurts and it's painful and it's challenging and we feel betrayed, and we still stick to the program. We have to learn to serve God without seeking to get anything out of it. I mean, I could be straight with you guys because I always am. They say if someone says, let me be honest with you, it's always a sign that it's tricky, because what does that mean? What did you tell me till now? Everything was a lie until now? So I'm not saying let me be honest with you. I'm reminding you that I'm always straight with you, my dear congregants, my dear community. If I waited for God to fulfill every promise that the Torah says that I'm supposed to get, I would have checked out of Judaism a long time ago. But I never look at my relationship with Hashem as a quid pro quo. I came to shul. Okay, so God, no. Right? I told you there was a chassid in Eretz Yisrael, there was a chassid in Israel. Reuven Dunan, he was a tractor driver. And they used to ask him, Reuven, how you doing? He'd say, Baruch Hashem lo beseder, Baruch Hashem not good. Baruch Hashem, everything's Baruch Hashem. What do you want me to tell you? It's good, it's terrible. But Baruch Hashem, it's terrible. Right? So we live in this religion, for many people, has become like a drug. You pop the pill and it's supposed to give you this kind of results. You're supposed to feel all spiritual and giddy and in rapture with God. Babamaisis. Sometimes you work very hard and you do feel it. And sometimes you stand making Kiddush Friday night, you're beaten, you're to shuss and to brachen, to krachen. You're like a big beaten human being after 6 days of working like your tail off. And you don't feel so spiritual. And you guess what? The beauty of Judaism is that even when you don't feel so spiritual, you still make Kiddush. And you still celebrate Shabbos. And you still go to shul. And you still struggle with your relationship with God. And you still go to shul. You get mad at him. You scream at him. You thank him. You pray to him. And you get mad at him again. It's cyclical. But you don't take his name in vain. You don't take his name in vain. And some people don't realize that that's the relationship. I always have rachmanas on those that don't believe in God. Who do you get to scream at when things go bad? Could you imagine poor atheists? Who do you scream at when things go bad? Mother Nature. Good luck screaming at Mother Nature. It's way more fun to scream at God. But that's the beauty of the relationship. We're not a quid pro quo with God. The spies made that mistake right at the beginning. Caleb didn't. And one of the reasons he didn't, because he prayed at the cave of Machpelah and had a better understanding of the way the world works in our relationship with God. But if you're seeking instant gratification in your relationship with God, you're making a deep, deep flaw, a deep mistake in perspective, which is going to sign you up like any time you have unreasonable expectations, whether with God or with life or it's going to sign you up for a life of misery. This morning, or I guess early this afternoon, the incredible people of the United States Postal Service that bring everything that's delivered at least within a year from when it was mailed from New York, it gets to Bozeman. So I got in the mail today this new sefer. It's volume 82 of the Rebbe's talks. So some of you may know this, that every morning I learn the Rebbe's talks. I'm in volume 23. I started at volume 1. I'm in volume 23, which is the summer of 1958. Volume 82 just came, and it's the fall of 1975 going into the winter of 1976. So from 58 to 76, not even in 18 years we go. It's 50 volumes of talks just from the summer of 1958 till the fall of 1975. So I have a lifetime worth of learning to go through, but because it came in today's mail, I couldn't resist. So I peeked it open to see if I could see a vort. I see a teaching there that speaks to me. And I came across a teaching right after the high holidays of 1975. And that week was the portion of Noah, the story of Noah and the great flood. And the Rebbe was addressing the fact that it took Noah 120 years to build the ark. Why didn't he do it quicker? So first of all, God told Noah, if you look at the verse, again, nuance, God said to him, Aseh lecha. You should make for yourself, and as the commentaries, the Medrash tells us, you have to make it with your own finances. Just like God told Moses in last week's Torah portion with the trumpets, that he has to make it with his own money. Aseh lecha, where he told him the same language. When it came to the ark, God told Noah he's got to make it with his own money, but also that he has to make it himself and not hire anyone else. Not hire anyone else. What does it matter? What does it matter? Why couldn't Noah hire some relatives to help him, right? He had sons, he had daughter-in-laws, he had a wife. Maybe it would have made things a little quicker. Why did he have to build the whole ark for 120 years himself? So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, the Talmud says that Sancheriv, the king of Assyria, once found one of the panels, the wood panels from Noah's ark. And he used it as idolatry. He served it as an idol. Now, I can't understand why anyone would take a piece of wood and turn it into an idol, but that's what Sennacherib did. And then there becomes a whole halachic debate. If someone prays to an item as an idol, does it become prohibited for a Jew? And that's where there's another incredible halachic teaching from the Gemara, that you can't make something prohibited that doesn't belong to you. So if we understand that Noah built the ark with his own cash, which means who owns that ark? Noah. Then no matter what Sennacherib did with the wood, it doesn't belong to Sennacherib. Therefore, he can't make it prohibited to anyone. So if somebody goes today to Mount Ararat, where many people think is somewhere in Turkey, they go to Mount Ararat and they find a piece of Noah's ark. Some archaeologist comes and says, and decides to use it for, I don't know, for some Hindu temple. That piece of wood can never become prohibited because it doesn't belong to anyone but to Noah. That's some technicalities that I read today in this talk, but it gets even more exciting. And that is a very, very practical lesson that we can take from the fact that Noah was to build the ark himself. And that is, even though Noah had a very decent-sized family, and Methuselah was still alive, right? Because you remember we waited for the flood, for the Shiva of Methuselah to finish. So the 120 years that Noah was building the ark, Methuselah was still alive. And I'm sure some of Methuselah's students were still alive. So there was a couple of good people in the world. Why couldn't Noah get them on board? Not only that, Noah could have said to himself, God, what do you want from me? I'm the righteous person of the generation. I'm supposed to forewarn everybody not to, they should all repent so they don't end up drowning in the flood. I'm supposed to make sure that they're good with God, that they're good with each other, that they don't commit any immoral behavior and unethical behavior, that everything's good. And you want me also to go and build an ark with my own hands? I have to do the construction? I have to be the one. Noah could have said to God, why do I have to be the one to go to Home Depot? Why do I have to go to Lowe's? Let these other guys do it. Let me be the big Jewish leader that educates and inspires the Jewish people to do what they got to do. Nevertheless, God wanted him to do it himself. God wanted him not to give it over, and he should do both at the same time. Be the inspiration to the generation, but also build the ark all by himself, and do both of them simultaneously. And that's really the key. And that is, when God asks you to do something, he's not asking your opinion. Noah could have argued with God, but he didn't. God asked him to build the ark himself with his own money and physically with the labor. He did it. God asked him to forewarn the generation about what's coming with the impending flood. He did it. He didn't sit there and pontificate and think, well, why should I do it? Why don't I hire Methuselah, my kids, this one, that one? I mean, God, what does God want from me? And that was the mistake of the spies, going back to where we started. They allowed for their own perception and their own perspective and for their own ideas and for their own agendas and for their own selfish wants. What am I going to get out of it? Noah, and for that matter, Caleb and Joshua, didn't ask, what do we get out of it? Ooh, we get luscious fruit. Ooh, we get honey and milk and honey. God wants us to conquer this land called Canaan. We're going to conquer it. You want to know what we saw there? We saw big giants, and we're still going to conquer it. They didn't allow their own issues to get inside and mixed into it. And we live in a society where so much of what people are looking for and what they want to do in this world comes with a caveat. Oh, I really like that idea, but what can I get out of it? It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about what you're doing for the world, whether that's spiritually, practically. Imagine a medic is on the side of the highway. He's driving on the 90. He's somewhere by big timber, and he sees a person showing him on the side of the highway that he can't breathe. He has something stuck in his throat. He needs CPR, and you're a medic. I wonder, is a guy going to pay me if I do CPR? If I do the Heimlich, is he going to pay me? Habibi, Bubala, you know the Heimlich maneuver. You're a medic. Pull over and save the guy's life. What are you pontificating now about what you're going to get out of it? It's not relevant. You're going to get nothing. You're going to save someone's life, and that's all that matters. It's not about you. It's about them. When it comes to serving God, if we want to be able to serve God without any of those distractions, without any of those agendas, and without any of those unhappy results because we have unsatisfied expectations, we have to stop having the expectations. We Jews don't serve God because it's glorious, and we don't stick to our Judaism because it's glorious. I was learning in Rambam. When was it? It feels like it was just yesterday. Oh, maybe it was on Shabbos. The Rambam, Maimonides says that when someone comes to convert to Judaism, one of the things we tell them is, Bubala, do you know how much we suffer? Why do you want to join this nation? People don't stick to Judaism because it's glorious. We stick to Judaism because it's right, and because it's holy, and because it's God-given at Sinai, not because we get things out of it. What do we get? The scorn of the world? Yeah, but we also get to walk with King David and with Miriam. We get to sing with the Levium in the temple. But is that better than being trapped? Is that worth it? The spies didn't think so. The spies were all focused on the ratio of how much am I going to get out of it. The Calebs of the world, the Joshuas of the world, the Noahs of the world, the Rebbes of the world didn't spend their time asking, what do I get out of it? It's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country. We've lost, since Kennedy said that, we've lost that ideal. It's not about what your country can give you. It's about what you can do for humanity. You want to live a fulfilled life, if you want to live a productive life, and here's the key, if you want to live a happy life, stop asking what people can do for you. The greatest happiness you can find will be in the happiness of serving God and serving others. It's not about what I get out of it. It's what I'm giving. And when you give, you are gifted with the greatest gift, which is inner satisfaction and happiness that comes from knowing that I'm not a selfish chazer that lives a whole day just to eat another. What is that famous song? I'll eat and drink and be married because tomorrow I die. It's the America. Well, I forgot that song from the 60s. Die, the America. Be partying. There's some song about tomorrow you die. Some people live like that. Let's have another party because maybe I'll die tomorrow. Let me die drunk. But a Yid doesn't live like that. A Yid lives and says, wow, I get to learn with Moshe Rabbeinu, with Moses. I get to celebrate the same Yom Tov like Devorah the prophetess, like Chana the prophetess. That's not something that we can take lightly, and we only get there when we move our silly and selfish expectations and interest in agenda and reward, which doesn't fit for a Yid. And by the way, it doesn't even fit for a Gentile, because Noah wasn't Jewish, and he still also wanted to be, he also served without any agendas. And so tonight's lesson is that when God asks you to do something, do it. And do it in the order that he asks you to do it, and don't get caught up in the rewards. As the famous teaching of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of the Chabad Hasidic movement, he once said, quoting from Psalms, the Imcha lechafatzti, I don't want anything, I don't want even Imcha. And he said in Yiddish, Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Garden of Eden. Ich will nicht dein Olam Haba. I don't want your world to come. And he went on with a couple of expressions, and he said, Ich will mehr nicht as dich allein. I only want you, God. I want your essence. I don't want your Garden of Eden. I don't want your heavenly pleasures. I want you. If someone tells you have an opportunity to meet the king, someone tells you have the opportunity to meet the president, and you say, oh, I came to the White House and I got to meet the Secretary of the Navy. Very nice. Nice to meet you, Mr. Navy. It's great for a selfie on Facebook. But I didn't come here to meet the Secretary of the Navy. Oh, no. We're going to let you also meet the Secretary of Commerce. Oh, we're going to even let you meet the Secretary of State. We're going to give you a Chvoidei V'atzma. You're going to hang out with Anthony Blinken. Nice to meet you, Blinken. Very nice. I came to meet the president. Says the Alter Rebbe, when a person gets caught up in the externalities, with the shiny things on the outside, Garden of Eden, bliss, big fruit, milk and honey, world to come, olam haba, they forget what it's really all about. It's about being one with the essence, being one with God himself. And then it's not about any of the grandiose externalities and rewards. It's about the essence. You got to spend 5 minutes alone with the king and I. Don't squander that. Don't miss out on that because you got caught up in the ritzy glitzy of the seventh hallway outside the palace, and you got so obsessed with the reward that you forgot why you came here in the first place. We didn't come here to be gifted with things. We didn't come here for the fruit. We came to make this world a better place. We came to follow God's command and conquering Israel and bringing beauty to the world and holiness to the world. And if God rewards us along the way, by all means, we all welcome that. But don't do it for that because it's wrong, it's unholy, and actually, eventually, it's going to be super disappointing. May you be inspired to serve God selflessly. It will make you a happier person, and we'll see you back here next week. And I know next Wednesday is July 3rd, and we're still going to learn Torah because the Constitution and America gave us the gift that we have the freedom to study Torah. So why would we cancel for the founding fathers? We have to celebrate it by learning Torah next Wednesday night. We look forward to it. Sei gesund, be strong, be inspired, and be happy. And we'll see you back here soon.